loved a parade. However, I just smile thinking about him. However, he had MacGyver-like resourcefulness, and I know there's some guys in this room that are like that. When he went to converting figures, he made things from scratch, or he repurposed things to create his own poses. Just what he could do was mind-blowing. Harold's shiny, tiny people eat, drink, and be merry. They do chores, they reel in fish, they smell roses, they go on safari, they decorate a Christmas tree. They're lively, witty, captivating toys. When I was fortunate enough to meet Harold in person for the first time, I presented him with an example of the old Britain's figure. To me, it signified how that first figure he found in England had such a profound impact on Harold, and how his little labors of love have brought so much joy to our hobby. In a way, that little soldier marching at the slope in a dark green Kilmarnock bonnet, a doublet, and hunting Stuart tartan, spells Stuart the wrong way though, seems to bring things full circle. So I brought one of these to Harold, and when I handed him the figure, he was tickle pink. So after Harold got the ball rolling on making figures in the 1970s, he built up a 1,500 figure Victorian era army. Excuse me a second. I'm gonna cry. It amounted to 130 sets. And he made some toy soldiers that Britons maybe never might have thought of, like the Pay Corps and the Dunedin Highlanders. His handsome 54mm horde eventually carpeted the entire floor of his son Mark's old bedroom. Mark went on to become a college professor too. Harold gained a bit of fame after the whole shebang was bought by Malcolm Forbes for displaying his Moroccan museum, and how the professor's work was spotlighted in the Toy Armies book. So during our first visit there, Sally and I were having lunch with Harold and Kate at their favorite Indian restaurant in Waterville, and I asked Harold how Forbes managed to find him in May, way back in those prehistoric, pre-internet days. And Harold said, I called him up. like it was no big deal dialing such a big shot. Kate and Sally, all three of us almost fell out of our chairs laughing because of the way he said it, and again, just remembering that moment, it lasted. But what happened was, having crafted all these toy soldiers, Harold was not a collector. He started, what am I going to do with them all? So he found out that Malcolm Forbes was a collector. So Harold picked up the phone. He called the Forbes publishing headquarters in Manhattan. He left a message with the receptionist, and Malcolm Forbes called him right back within the hour. And they soon struck a deal for those 1,500 military miniatures to march from Maine to Morocco. So Harold called his soldiers soldiers of the Queen. I guess the picture I picked doesn't reflect this. But they'd come in rectangular boxes, and what Harold would normally do is he'd take the image of Queen Victoria off the Bombay gin bottle, and he used the exact same thing on his boxes. He became a favorite of Malcolm Forbes. Again, this is just hilarious to me, the idea that, so here's a publishing mogul with great panache and deep pockets. He bought whatever tickled his fancy from all kinds of makers. And he'd have it sent to Tangiers while the museum lasted. It's gone now. One of my collector friends from Scotland was there. He happened to be there when it was moving day, and like the trucks were parked out front. And I was like, oh man, I never made it there. So you know, Forbes was the kind of person that could buy and do whatever he wanted. So one day in 1987, Malcolm Forbes is cruising on his yacht called the Highlander off the Atlantic coast of Maine. And he punctuated his passion for hobby hunting by not only does he have a yacht, but his yacht is big enough for a helicopter. He jumped in his helicopter. I don't know what the logistics of it were. The helicopter landed on an athletic field at Colby College, right up the street from where Harold and Kate live, to visit Harold, pick up some toy soldiers. And I just can't imagine that. That's, talk about collecting on steroids. That's just insane, you know. Actually, Sally and I wanted to fly our helicopter up here for this trip, but the Canadian Air Force said that they would shoot us down. We drove. But I guess the big thing to me is, like Mr. Forbes, many collectors of much more modest means, me included, adore Harold's toy armies. There was a time when some Pestana sets could be found in places like London's former Under Two Flags shop. However, they've never been widely available. Pre-eBay, one of the things Harold and Kate would do would they'd go to places like big flea markets or a church sale, and there would be these toy soldiers, and probably baffled a lot of people, but that was where you found them. These days, some examples turn up occasionally on eBay or hobby shows, but the best collection I know of is housed at Harold's longtime friend Jim Hillestead's Toy Soldier Museum in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains. And I know a number of the guys here have been there and been amazed by what Jim has put together. Not just his collection of toy soldiers, but how he displays it, the dioramas he's built, all the makers that are represented. It's just, his militaria is just incredible. That's why he calls me son and I call him dad, because I'm trying to cultivate something here. But so at one point, Harold and I have a copy of this. He filmed and narrated a video documenting in a really impressive exhibit of the Soldiers of the Queen items in the Colby College Museum of Art in November 1988. So it's around Christmas time. It's a toy thing, you know. It's amazing that Arabs are charging a giant British desert square supported by a scratch-built armored train. There's a harbor full of 54mm warships. There's a French Bastille display going on. There's suffragettes, including a band dressed in pink, rallying to give women the right to vote. The real Bermuda's troops are undergoing training while their general takes a bath in a camp tub. There's a guy sitting in a bathtub. I hope anyone that was lucky enough to have seen this unique display with their own eyes was able to appreciate how all the little details were the fruit of just one man's great imagination, craftsmanship, and his very wry and dry sense of humor. And many of those items that were in that display found a home in Jim Hillestead's collection, and that was a part of my introduction to Harold and what he did. That art gallery exhibit showed the soldiers of the Queen at their peak, while Harold was still at the cutting edge of new toy soldiers movement. However, the one-man cottage industry's output was always somewhat limited, because Harold principally just researched and made things purely for the pleasure of overcoming the inherent historical, artistic, and technical challenges. When I got to know him personally, he was in his 80s, late 70s, 80s. He needed a cane to get around the house safely, but it didn't slow him down. His regular routine included navigating really unsteady, rickety chairs that had a twisty turn in them to go down to his basement. And he'd do casting down there, his woodworking, or he'd draw parts. He had a whole wall of catalog bins and parts, castings that he'd made through the years. He also would be up in his upstairs study, painstakingly painting figures with glossy goodness. And he did this right up until he passed away at age 86 in 2018. And he would often fulfill special orders from some of his fans. Kate makes me laugh because she can remember times like Harold would get really annoyed and shout downstairs, "Kate, I'm out of red paint!" And Harold would modestly say that he did things the hard way, but I think his meticulous methodology resulted in charming homemade metal men with magnetic appeal, any flaws and all. You know, as things would go on through the years, you know, how molds can wear out, you know, some of these figures, like, they barely have a base, but they can still stand up because of the mold wearing. This is in Harold's study, there was a few Starlux plastic French Revolution related figures, real British Coldstreams, guards, bearskin cap, and some other random things. He was not a collector. His personal collecting passion revolved around the adventures of Tintin and his terrier Snowy. And a whole upstairs room, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is Harold with his Tintin collection, and it was amazing. But I just thought it was interesting that toy soldiers weren't really his thing. To him, it was about the making of them. It was really easy to see. You know, he was showing me around. You could just see how much enjoyment he took from it. Just like I know, I've visited many of you guys' homes, and somebody who's been to our house. You know, you get it. If you're a collector, you get it. It doesn't matter what the person's collecting. So the part of the thing about Harold is a sense of humor to me, and his humor really shines through in the self-published book Bermudiana. Its genesis stemmed from, again, he was a geology professor. He made more than 20 teaching and research trips to study the real Bermuda. Its sole main island is much less populated than Harold's more expansive imaginary version, which has 7 large islands. Plus, the only Bermuda shorts in this book are the colorful 54 millimeter people created by Harold for Bermudiana, Land of Imagination series. The professor explained that my first supposition was that the volcanic platform, too much geology here, don't go to sleep. The volcanic platform that submerged in, I don't even know how to say the word, epoch 66 to 23 million years ago, did not actually completely submerge, and that there were several large islands left above sea level. These islands were colonized, as was the real Bermuda, by the English. Everything else is strictly imagination. In 2004 or so, Harold created his faux turn of the 20th century book by using old postcards and pictures from circa 1800s guidebooks. And he wrote the text in their singular style while interjecting his own sense of humor. And he also made a fold-out map to illustrate the geography of his creation.